All right, this is Sandy back here with another tag video. I am doing the 20 questions book tag from Getbookish. I was tagged by Divided by Sight, so I'm getting ready to participate in that. Some interesting questions here among the 20. Well, actually it's really 19, but I'll get to that later. That's coming up next. Okay, question number one is, how many books is too many books in a series? So I don't really have a good answer for that. To me, it just depends on how good the series is. Whether the series is 2 books, 3 books, or it's 10 books. If it's good, if it can keep me hooked, if it can keep me entertained, it's got good character development and decent to really good world building, I'm gonna be hooked and I'll be in it for the duration. Question number 2 is, how do you feel about cliffhangers? Well, I don't have a big problem with cliffhangers, and I'm assuming that the question is based on maybe a series of books and leaving you hanging at the end of a series of, at the end of a book in a series to get you to go on to the next book in a series. Now, I grew up watching TV shows like Dallas, like Dynasty, and they always had huge cliffhangers, certainly at the end of each season, and they had little cliffhangers. Dynasty and the Colbys, the spinoff of Dynasty, more so had little cliffhangers at the end of each particular episode. So I kind of am used to that, so I don't really have a big problem with that. But again, good characters, good world building, and an intriguing story to keep me hooked. That's what's going to keep me in the mix and appetized to continue, especially with a cliffhanger. Question number 3, hardback or paperback? Generally speaking, hardback, but if it's one of those bigger paperbacks, I'm cool with that too. Interesting they didn't put digital books, but for the sake of this question, I will say hardback is my preferred book type. Question number 4 is favorite book. And I've talked about this before on this channel, and One-on-One by Tabitha King from the early 90s, that's my favorite book. That's the book that inspired me to want to become a writer. That's the book that also really inspired me. It renewed my inspiration to continue reading, and I started reading more and more books after picking up One-on-One by Tabitha King. Question number 5, least favorite book. That's a difficult one to answer. I'm gonna punt on that one because there's so many books that I read, and I read like a lot of books by undiscovered authors, self-published authors. Some are very good, some are not so good, and then there are books that are written by established authors, some that are very good, some that are pretty bad. So it just all depends. It's probably too many for me to name. If I think of something, I'll put it in the description box below. Question number 6, love triangles, yes or no? Hell yeah with love triangles. Who doesn't love a love triangle? Come on, those are really good. I was talking about this a little bit because in the book An American Marriage by Tiara Jones, a book that I've talked about several times on this channel, that's got a love triangle of a kind. And so that's something that I definitely find intriguing. So I'm all about that. Number 7, question number 7 is the most recent book that you just couldn't finish. It was called Stuck in Manistee, and I picked it up because it was Michigan based, but I just kind of struggled with it. It was kind of overly descriptive, and it was, the pace got a little bit slow for me, and I picked it up a couple more times and I just couldn't finish it. I think it was really good. It was interesting, and I know a lot of people liked it. I may someday pick it back up again, but I did stall with that one. One of the rare books that I have DNF'd, if I want to still consider it a DNF, since I might actually pick it up again. Question number 8 is a book you are currently reading. One of the books I'm reading right now is The Shining by Stephen King. It's a book I've wanted to read for a long time, and I'm glad to be in it. It's off to a good start. I had a slow reading week, but I'm looking forward to jumping back into it. Question number 9, last book you recommended to somebody. That would be American Dirt by Janine Cummins. And not just because it was a good book, it was one of the books that I gave 5 stars to last year in 2020, but also because it was a book that many people were trying to cancel. It was finding its way on many banned book lists. And I am one who, when I see a book on a banned book list, I become that much more curious about it. And I'm glad that that was the case for me with American Dirt, because I truly enjoyed that book. Question number 10, oldest book that you've read. Probably some Shakespeare. I've got a big Shakespeare Norton anthology book that has a ton of Shakespeare in it, and I read Othello. So I'll just say Othello by Shakespeare is probably the oldest book that I've read. Question number 11, what is the newest book that you've read? Probably, I'll look at releases, 2021 releases. I'll say Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas, which is the prequel to The Hate U Give. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed The Hate U Give, and I was more than willing to give the prequel a chance, and I'm glad I did. Question number 12, favorite author. Yeah, there's just so many to name. Riley Sager, James Patterson, Tabitha King, Stephen King, Erica Spindler. Wow, there's just so many books that I could name. There's just tons of books here behind me of great authors that I could point out. So just too many to name, but those are just a few that jumped off the top of my head. Books that I see a book by this author, and I'm probably pretty likely to pick it up. Question number 13, book buying or book borrowing? I do not like borrowing books, and I don't like really loaning books. Don't ask me why, it's just a quirk. I can't explain it, it's just one of those things for me. I would much rather buy it or, I'll just buy it one way or the other. I'll either buy it new or I'll buy it used. I'll find it somewhere, but I'm not a borrower. Question 14, a book that you did not like that everyone else seems to love. It was well written, but it didn't work for me, and that's Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Hats off to everybody that enjoyed it. I can get why they enjoyed it. It just didn't work for me. Number 15, Bookmarks or Dog Ears? I've done both, but I prefer Bookmarks. Question number 16, a book that you can always reread. Now, I don't really have any books that I've reread, at least none that I can think of off the top of my head, but two that I'm really thinking about doing, and I'm almost sure that three. One is Shocking Pink by Erica Spindler. Another is Carrie by Stephen King. And then, of course, One-on-One by Tabitha King. So those are three books that I am strongly thinking about rereading. Question number 17, can you read a book while listening to something like music or something along those lines? And the answer is yes. I'm a big multitasker, so I always have something playing in the background, whether it's TV, whether it's music, whether it's a video or something. There's always something playing in the background. That just makes it easier for me, believe it or not, to concentrate on reading. Question 18, one person point of view or multiple person point of view? Either is fine. I've had recently more books that I've read with dual timelines and dual voices, and that's fine. Although sometimes I find myself more attracted to one timeline and voice versus another, but I prefer probably one person point of view. But, either is fine. As long as the characters are interesting and the pace is good, the world building is on point. Question number 19, do you read a book in one sitting or do you read a book over multiple days and or sittings? And this is easy. I very rarely read a book in one sitting unless it's a very short novella. So I would say multiple days and sometimes even longer than days. Could be weeks sometimes. It just all depends. But, by hook or by crook, one way or another, I'm going to get it done. So I would say definitely not going to see me read too many books in one sitting. I admire I admire readers who can do that. It's just not something that's typically worked for me. And question number 20 is, who do you tag? And the answer is, I need to think about it. I'll probably put that in the description box below. So check out the description box because I will probably add that when I come up with the name of somebody that I want to tag eventually. So that does it for the 20 questions book tag from Getbookish, recommended to me by Divided by Sight. Thank you, Lauren, for recommending that to me. I had a good time doing it. It's always interesting to look through some of these questions, to answer some of these questions, to think through some of these questions, because it does get you to think critically about books that you've read, books that you might read, and other decisions related to the BookTube and sometimes to the AuthorTube world. So thanks for the recommendation. I was excited to participate in it, and I look forward to more tag videos.